All right, I think we're going to start. First of all, thank you all for joining us. My name is Julie Romain. I am the lower school admissions director. Also joining us on this panel today is Douglas Wainwright. She is our head of lower school. Katy Friedland. She is our director of admissions outreach. She is also a parent here at SCH. And before we kind of get started, and before I turn it over to Douglas, who will kind of give you an overview of the lower school and kind of talk a little bit about single sex education and some of the highlights of what we do down here in the McCausland building. Some of you had answered questions or submitted questions beforehand. We will get to those at the end, and we'll start with the submitted questions. But along the way, if you feel that you have any questions, please feel free to hit the button below where it says Q&A, and we will monitor those, and then we'll get to those at the very end. But for right now, I'm going to turn this over to Douglas, and she's going to talk to you a little bit about the lower school.
Great, thanks so much, Julie. And welcome everyone. It's very exciting to have a chance to speak with new prospective families, and I only wish that I could see you in person because that's an important part of the process for us. But I just want to share, this is my 6th year at SCH. I started as the head of the lower school for girls. All of my professional background has been in working in single-sex schools, both in single-sex girls and boys schools. And then I came here as the lower school's girls head. I have 2 daughters as well. And one of the things that's really fascinating about our school, now that we are in the same building, lower school boys on one side of our building and lower school girls on the other side of our brand new, really exquisite, beautiful building that is allowing us to have a lot of space and really happy days with our kids during COVID. Is that now that we're the largest independent school in Philadelphia, you still maintain the cozy smallness of a small school while you have all the benefits of a big school. So the thing that I'm going to speak about a little bit about why I think single sex is so important, especially in elementary school, I think is the primary place, and then is that a few different reasons. One of the things is that in a single sex school, you really have the opportunity, your child has the opportunity to learn who they are without the pressures without the pressures of gender stereotypes. So within the single sex classroom, students, when you think about all the different panoply of options that children have, from being leaders to the artist, the mathematician, to the writer, all of those things that sometimes get gendered in our culture, all children have the option to do and to succeed at and to be the leader in that field. And so that's a really special thing. Our boys sing, and they sing a lot, and it's really kind of cool to be a singer. Our girls build, and they build a lot, and it's really cool to be a builder. And while those things are true on the opposite sides of the school, they just have, children aren't competing for space or resources in our single sex environment. And that's just really, really important. And the other thing is that the relational aspect of it. So I think that in the single sex environment, and independent schools are really good for providing a strong foundation for relationships with teachers and classmates. But at a single sex school, you have so many options for creating deep roots with your classmates and your peers in a way that is really, really important and meaningful for children. And these relationships last for years. I mean, one of the things that happens for me when I'm often walking around the campus on the weekends or in the afternoons is I'll run into people who maybe had a child at our school, and they will say, oh, my child went there, and the people that he or she is friends with are still the closest people in their lives. And that really is important. I think that not that you don't grow and change over their life, but that you have developed a bond with someone that continues to carry you throughout your life. And I think that the single sex aspect of our school really matters for that. So in a small school, one of the things that's tremendous about that benefit is that you have this opportunity to be known in a way that is really special. So our teachers, all of the teachers in the whole division get to know all of the children, and conversely, the children know all the teachers, and that really makes you feel like you belong and that you're welcomed in the space. And conversely, at a big school, you have a tremendous amount of resources, right? We're kind of a, we have, all these, we're right on the edge of the Wissahickon. Our children are in our outdoor program is really spectacular. So we have the resource, that natural resource. We have our, institutional natural resources in terms of all of our facilities and the amount of administration and support personnel that we have, which is fantastic. And that's really important. And then the last piece that I want to talk about explicitly this morning is diversity, equity, and inclusion. One of the important things that I want to convey to everyone is that, as you likely know, or may know if you're just getting to know us, diversity is one of our 5 core values. In our school, the lower school faculty has been working with teaching tolerance for the last several years to augment and provide an important lens in our curriculum in a variety of different places. But one of the, I want to share with you 2 new programs that we are adopting in lower school this year. So all of our grades in lower school, pre-K through 4, are working with the Pollyanna Curriculum. It's a racial literacy curriculum that we have been trained in and learned about this summer. So that's something that if you're curious about, you can learn more by doing going to their website, Pollyanna organization. And then we also have a program called Breathe, which is an internal program that some of our faculty have developed this summer. And the purpose of Breathe is to be able to respond in a meaningful way to teachable moments around different elements of diversity. And so one of the things, this was really important for our faculty this year to continue to push our work forward in the DEI space by making sure that we have really consistent intentional programming that has a consistent scope and sequence in all of the elementary grades, while simultaneously having something that's responsive and can grow based on our current needs or when certain things happen that we want to be able to respond to in a thoughtful way. So those are 2 elements I wanted to share. And I really am excited for you to have a tour of our school. I know it'll be a strange tour this year, likely, because there won't be children in the building, but just know that I have to say I have never been prouder and happier to be an educator than I have been this fall, when I have the ability from my office to see our fantastic commons being used in a way that I don't think even 18 months ago when our building was being built was even envisioned, and that like almost everybody is outside eating lunch, playing with their masks on, and just so happy to be back on campus. It's a really special spot, and the amount that our children are thriving here by being back with us is testament to that. So just know that when you come to campus, it may be very quiet. When we're all here, it is bustling with really happy kids who are engaged in their learning and excited to be with their friends.
Sorry. Thank you, Douglas. That was great. And again, if you have questions about anything that you heard about, please feel free to enter those in the question and answer. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the application process and a little bit about timing and all that stuff. And then we will move into our question and answers. So basically, you have started your process already by, getting curious about different schools, looking at the different options that are out there for you. And at Springside Chestnut Hill Academy, we start in early childhood and we go from pre-K to 12. Our applications start to roll in about the beginning of September. And typically, once you submit an application, obviously before you would, maybe have toured or come in, but this year we are only offering tours to applicants who have applied. And once we receive the application, I would reach out to you and let you know that we have the application, and then we would find time to schedule a tour. And then we would also set up a parent meeting through this virtual platform. And then we would arrange time to meet your child and have a little interview, play session, maybe draw some things, play some games together, make it as interactive as we can. And then also on top of that, we would be requiring a teacher recommendation and a report card. Some younger students don't have the report card or progress report. So, and some kids are on a hybrid or virtual learning. So it's somewhat fluid. So I will be talking to you individually as you apply, and we can work through those details once we get through that. And then once everything is done and I have everything, I will be communicating through email, through phone calls, and letting you know that I've received things. And then typically the timeline is that we want to have everything in by the end of November. Once we have everything in, also if you are going to be applying for financial aid as well, you want to make sure that all your financial aid applications are submitted, and that is also completed in the same time frame as your application. And then our first round of decisions would come to the families the first 2 weeks of December. We will sit down as a committee and we'll make those decisions. And then what we do is we reach out right before we usually break for winter and let you know that we've made a decision. So that's kind of where the process is at this point. After the December, January-ish, we are on a rolling basis. So if you submit your application once the file is complete, we would then review it and meet as a committee, in a timely manner. But up until then, we won't make our first decisions until about the second week of December. So with that being said, I am going to start, I'm going to open it up to some questions and answers. I'm going to turn it over to Katy, and she's going to kind of read the questions, and then Douglas, myself, and Katy will answer them appropriately.
Hi, everyone. As Julie said, my name is Katy Friedland, and I have 4 children here, 2 boys and 2 girls, all started in pre-K, all different ages, still 3 in lower school. I have always loved this place. I loved it so much that even though I started as a parent, I then took a job there about 5 years after I became a parent. And still love it today. So we've got a bunch of questions coming in. This one has already been asked twice, so I'm going to start with this. Can you talk a little bit more about the cutoff date? When does SCH consider pre-K and at what age?
Great question. So I'm going to take that question and let you know that typically we want our pre-K students to be 4 by September 1st. That being said, sometimes I get a question that my child turned 4 on September 4th. And what does that look like? Or my child turns 4 on September 15th. And those are really tricky because, depending on where they're at school or what their background is, if they have older siblings, if they're an only child, all those things play into it. We do have a firm September 1st. I will, if it's early in the September month, meaning like the 2nd, the 4th, I would love to have a conversation because sometimes those children are ready. And being that they are let's say they are in our early childhood center right now, they're familiar with our curriculum. You might have that wiggle room a little bit that they might be ready for pre-K if they're at that little midway. So again, like I said, I would be happy to talk to you further if you want to call me or shoot me an email and we can find a time to talk. But otherwise, that's kind of where we kind of fall on the cutoff date.
Next question. What is the ratio of students to teacher in the lower school? Do you want to take that one, Douglas? Class size?
Sure, I'll take that. So it's a little bit, I'm going to do my best because I'm not actually sure if I'm going to be able to give you the perfect answer. So when we're talking about student to teacher ratio, we're talking about the class size and the number of teachers. And we're also talking about when schools talk about that, they talk about the size of their faculty or the number of students in their division divided by the number of faculty in their division. So it's not necessarily just how big a class is with the teachers. So in our pre-K, it's about 2 to like I'll be talking about maximum. Sometimes these numbers are under it, but it's about 1 to 10 or 1 to 8 in terms of the homerooms. In kindergarten, it's about 1 to, I mean, that ratio is about the same. In first grade, it is 1 to 14. In second through fourth grade, it's about 1 to 16 in the homerooms. But when you look at our faculty over the whole school, I think we're about 8 to 1 student to teacher, because we have a lot of departmental teachers as well as specialists.
All right, so I'm going to say, let's do this one, which I think is great. Can you talk a little bit about our ECC, the program, in terms of how it's different from our current school and what that transition would look like?
I can take that. So our ECC program is wonderful. It started in January. The head of our lower school boys took on the department of ECC. And in doing so, she created this wonderful program that balances kind of the transition from early childhood to pre-K, working with a range of different skills and social emotional development, getting them ready for school. And in doing so, there is a lot of outdoor exploration, hands-on learning, building, learning how to compromise and play, and learning how to stand in line and be a leader and help out their friends in the classrooms. So I think that they're working on the basic skills of what it would look like before they get into our more traditional classroom. They do have a schedule. I'm not saying that they don't have a schedule in ECC, but it's a little bit more academically appropriate as they move from, a preschool setting to a early learning center, early childhood classroom, where there's instructional learning in terms of some reading, developmental skills in math and writing. So it builds on that program. So there is a definite difference between the ECC and the pre-K in the sense that their skill level and their ability to be a student more so has changed and become a little bit more complex. So with those skills that they had in ECC, we take those skills and move them into our program. And I can share with you, or you can look on the website, there is a curriculum guide for the girls and the boys. And you'll find that the curriculum itself is pretty much the same on both sides. Maybe, themes or concepts might be a little different, but they're learning the same math, they're learning the same English, and being on those targets. But ECC and pre-K, you can see the differences a little bit more if you want to go into it a little bit more deeply.
And also, just to follow up on that anecdotally as a parent, the reason that SCH chose a Reggio Emilio preschool is because we knew that it aligned with our curriculum. So we got to build our whole school, the preschool, around picking something that we knew would align. I think it's going to feel very, very fluid. When I'm visiting an ECC on tours, I feel the extension of our pre-K. So the next question, had to say this, so I'm going to bring it up. The questions for Douglas about student support, both for kids that need academic support for their weaknesses and kids that are gifted.
Sure, absolutely. So I think it's important for families to understand that we are a rigorous college prep school. We are not a school for students with learning differences. Even though we have small class sizes and a small student to teacher ratio. So I think that's important to understand. That said, we can accommodate students who come to our school because it's typical that you have, you're a student with you're an intelligent little child, you are curious about the world, and you may have a reading challenge, or you may have an attentional challenge. Those things do not correlate with intelligence, and that's something that we expect. And so we have support both kind of built into our programs so that we are teaching things in a systematic, sequential way, but also that we have reading specialist support. We also partner with, I don't know if partnership is the right word, but we also receive funding from Elwin, which is the non-public school support organization, where we have a reading specialist, a little bit of math support, and some speech support through Elwin. So I would always like to have more support. We have a decent amount. As an administrator, you always want more. So that's one thing. And then we also, so with families, if we find that someone has a reading or attentional challenge, those are the typical, the big ones that come up for us in our school. We partner with families. We try to do the right kind of assessment. We figure out what we can support in school. Oftentimes the family may need to do a little bit of additional support outside of school. That is very typical with any of our peer schools. That is the answer that you will likely get from any lower school heads of our peer schools. In terms of students who are gifted, that is something that we expect and are very excited about. So our teachers are really skilled at making sure that we're extending our programs. So we have let's talk about math. We have a lower school math coordinator who we have, in addition to being kind of above grade level, we oftentimes have a handful of very gifted math students. And then we work to create individualized programs that support or extend children through our curriculum, and also on a separate track through some individualized programs that we have. We also, with our reading programs, the way we teach reading, it is individualized with the readers and writers workshop programs, so that you are reading at your level, although the class may be taught a certain skill, and then you are reading at your level in a piece of literature, and or not from a hardbound reading textbook, but you're reading from a trade book. You are applying what you're learning to that book. And then you're getting feedback individually from your teacher about what you need to do to continue to grow. So a lot of our curriculum is individualized in that way so that we can meet students where they are.
Awesome. Julie, this next question is for you. What percentage of students in the lower school begin in pre-K versus begin in kindergarten?
Interesting. Gosh, I would have to think. Well, a large majority of our pre-kindergarten students move up through our kindergarten. So typically a pre-K class would be at 21, and of those 21 or 16 between 16 and 20 students, 21, I would say all of those students, 100% move up. The only thing that I've seen over the past few years is that a family has relocated and taken another job and has left. But typically that progression is seamless. So I'd say about 100%.
And then I'll just add on to that so typically we admit so it's probably about 50% of the students who start in pre-K and 50% who start in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And that we have, but some years it's closer to 75 in pre-K and then some years it's closer to 25, just depending on a variety of factors with the admission year.
Excellent. Next question, Douglas, you mentioned that the kids spend time in the Wissahickon and that our campus is on the Wissahickon. Can you talk a little bit more about outdoors programs?
Definitely. So this year, we've had a couple of different outdoor programs that have kind of been running simultaneously for the years. We've had kind of our environmental education, which is that the science teachers on a regular basis spend time out in the woods with the students, either kind of as a separate naturalist experience on a regular basis with the younger students, or it's interwoven with their science work. Like, let's say you're studying birds in 3rd grade and you're doing experiments and you're going outside and you're putting your experiment together, and then you're observing, and then you're coming back inside to look at your data and do some analysis. So that's one component. Then We've also had an outdoor program led by an outdoor program teacher where students typically in second grade start hiking more in the Wissahickon or taking trips kind of far afield from us and doing some family camping trips, etc. We've done a bike hike. We do bike hikes as well, where the students go down, they hike down into the Wissahickon. Some people, sometimes it's me, it depends which maintenance staff is around, kind of throw all the people's bikes into the back of trucks and drive them down to Valley Green and then unload the bikes. So the bikes are there when they hike down, and then they bike to either Northwestern Avenue, or the fourth graders go down to the art museum. So a lot of real activities that push kids out of their comfort zones and build resilience, etc. So this year it's a little bit different. Our adjustments for COVID have been with our outdoor program teacher is now we're just staying on our campus / the Wissahickon and doing a lot of hiking. So every other week for 2 hours, the students are in each homeroom or out in the Wissahickon doing something. So I've been partnering with one of the fourth grade classes. So far this year, we have hiked to one of the statues in the Wissahickon and did a 5-mile hike with the fourth grade. And yesterday we were teaching the girls to do some trail maintenance, which was a lot of fun once they learned how to appropriately hold a large yard tool and then use it on a consistent basis. So it was fun.
We have 3 more questions.
I was going to say, Katie, we're running out of time. I would say we have time for maybe one more question, and then I'm going to wrap it up, only because I promised to stay on task or on time. And I'm happy to answer any questions that we don't get to. I will, what I'll do is send up a follow-up email, and I will try to incorporate all the answers that we gave you today in that email.
Perfect. So I think, Douglas, if you could answer this last one, that someone would like to hear more about our robotics, math, and technology program.
Okay, great. For math, we use the Singapore math. We use the Math and Focus curriculum, which is the American publisher's version of Singapore math. Robotics starts in coding, and coding is obviously separate from robotics, but coding experiences typically start in K and 1 in some capacity. Students start doing some robotics in 3rd grade, and there's a larger 4th grade robotics unit in science. What was the other one? I feel like I'm missing something. Katie.
Which is math, technology, robotics. So I think, do you want to talk about Mr.
Sure.
Cool?
And we have a new media program with a teacher named Mr. Cool, which is really fantastic that that's his last name. And he typically does a new media class with 4th graders and also partners with teachers in their Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership classes to add a new media element to some of the work that they're doing. So one of his big philosophy is really showing kids what's possible, and then oftentimes figuring out a way to use some materials to augment what they're doing. So he may be using conductive Play-Doh or little bits, or wiring circuit boards so that you can kind of voice record over a piece of artwork or something for a presentation.
Cool. Thank you. All right, well, I think we are going to wrap it up for today. I want to thank you all for coming. It's been great to have you join us. I'm sorry that we're not in person, and I would love to hopefully welcome you to campus and have you, sign up for a tour eventually, and would love to see an application. If you have any other questions, let me know. I'm here, Katie's here, Douglas is here, and we would love to get to know you and your families. So again, thank you all for coming today. We've enjoyed our time and look forward to getting to know you hopefully a little bit better in the future. Thanks.
Take care, everyone.
Everyone, take care.